The last thing we got, guys. Sorry, there we go. Last thing we got is the modifications of the cell surface, all right? There is a lot of stuff extracellularly, okay? When I say extracellularly, I mean stuff that's outside the cell. Extracellular, whenever you see that word, think outside the cell. Outside the cell. Okay. All this is, guys, is just a number of things that allow, because remember, cells connect together, right? When I get a group of cells together, they allow us to form tissues. So these are just some of those modifications, that higher level of organization that occurs when things go from small things to more bigger and complex structures. So, I'm going to highlight a couple of these. Maybe you'll pay attention to them for the exam. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out. But there are a number of extracellular modifications. And one of those is collagen fibers. Collagen fibers, like I just said, provide a lot of strength, resiliency. They allow the tissues to stretch in the direction of those fibers, okay? So if my fibers are going in this direction here, okay, if there's a force applied in that direction, oh, they're super strong. They're awesome. They're fantastic, okay? This is a tendon. This is a ligament, okay? But, if I have a force that comes here, let's say somebody comes running at my knee with a helmet and dives at it and goes this way, are the fibers going in that direction? Nope. Are they going to be able to resist those forces going in the opposite direction? Nope. So are collagen fibers going to help resist stretching in that plane? No. And they provide absolutely nothing for you at that point, okay? And that's what happens when someone hits you on the outside of your knee and you blow out your MCL, okay? It causes that stretching of that ligament and it tears. Why? It's full of these strong collagen fibers. It's because those fibers are only going in one direction. Elastin. This allows some resilience, some stretch and comes back. Some stretch and comes back. Some stretch and comes back, okay? Some stretch, and there it is. I don't have cauliflower here, okay, from just that one time pulling on it. And we saw these earlier, proteoglycans, okay, and they help with cell signaling. Okay, so those three guys, those are really the important ones that I would pay attention to if I was a betting man on an exam for who to show up or not show up on an exam. But there's a lot of these extracellular matrix components within the human body. There's cartilage, fibrocartilage, elastic cartilage, hyaline cartilage, and all of them, guys, are just this different mishmash of various different fibers, like collagen and elastic, that make up various different tissues within the human body. Okay, and you can kind of see some of those, okay? Collagen, proteoglycan, elastic, so there you go. The last thing, okay, the last thing that we got here, guys, is cellular junctions. It is cellular junctions that give us what I keep talking about: tissues, organs, stuff in the human body. Okay? We have three types of junctions that are crucial for the human body to function. They are called desmosomes. They are called tight junctions, They're called gap junctions. Okay. When you think of a tight junction, think of it like a zipper. Okay. You zip up your jacket and it creates a nice impermeable barrier between the outside of your jacket and the inside of the jacket. Keeps you dry. That's what tight junctions do. They seal two cells together. Makes a wonderful impermeable barrier. So think of your bladder, okay? All that urine inside your bladder, right? It's a waste product. I don't want to get it inside my body. So I have this tight junction that occurs in between these individual cells that make up the tissue bladder to keep the urine inside the bladder and it doesn't leak out. Desmosomes is right here. Okay, it's this little bitty plaque with these little bitty filaments within it. Okay, these are really strong. They provide a lot of strength. Okay, they provide a lot of strength. Think of how somebody builds a house. Okay, they pour the foundation, and then they put a bunch of concrete. Or I'm sorry, they put a bunch of rebar in that concrete, and that helps to tie that foundation, because what do we put right on top of that concrete and drill holes in so those rebar stick right through? That's what gives this strength for the foundation of the house to stick to the wooden frame of the house so they don't just slough off. Okay, so when two cells come together like that, you get those little bitty fibers that extend into each adjacent cell, and that provides a lot of strength. Okay, and now it can resist a lot of mechanical forces and it can't come apart. Okay, and it can't come apart. So desmosomes provide a lot of strength to these cells that I have clumping together. The last one is a gap junction. The gap junction is this one right here. Here's my gap. Okay, and oh my God, there's a little gap right there. There's little holes. These gap junctions is what allows communication, I should probably write this, between adjacent cells. All right. Gap junctions are vitally important for the heart. It allows ions to move from one cell, from one heart cell, to the next heart cell. It allows these cells to communicate with one another. It's that quick movement of ions from one cell to the next that allows this heart to contract as a unit. All right. You also see the same thing in smooth muscle. The smooth muscle is your digestive tract, basically. It's everywhere, but I'm just giving you one example here. Okay. This is the digestive tract. Okay. The digestive tract is just a fibromuscular tube from mouth to anus. All right. As soon as you chew and swallow something, there are a series of contractions and relaxations. Contract, relax, contract, relax, contract, relax. And that helps to push food, digested food, forward through the tube. Okay? And it's these gap junctions with these tiny little spaces, these tiny little gaps that allow these ions to move quickly from one cell to the next. That's how these cells communicate to say, all right, I'm contracting, you're going to need to relax. Okay, I'm going to relax. And then, all right, I'm contracting, you're going to need to relax. Okay. And we move stuff forward through the tube. Okay. So these junctions are vitally important for what we look at in human anatomy. These various different proteins embedded within the plasma membrane are vitally important to what we're going to look about here in a little bit in the next week. All right, and what we expound upon in physiology class. So all this stuff, you may be like, man, I ain't going to use this. But you know what? You're going to deal with sickness. You're going to deal with somebody that you love being in the hospital. You have to decide on what medication to give them. You have to understand what that does to the human body, just enough, a little bit, to understand what medication you're giving them and what that's honestly going to do to them, okay? Because it can really change a lot of this stuff that we talk about, this ability to make energy, okay? This ability for cells to maintain their integrity. So it's vitally important to kind of understand all of these concepts that we talk about with here within the plasma membrane. The very last thing is one modification found in the cell surface of a plant, okay? Remember, in a plant cell, right, we have the rigid cell wall. It's because of that rigid cell wall that we have this thing called a plasmodesmata. A plasmodesmata is almost like a gap junction for plants. At least that's how I visualize it, okay? That cell wall is solid and rigid, and it does not allow anything to come across it, okay? It's very thick, excuse me, it's very rigid. It does not allow stuff to come across, all right? The plasmodesmata is basically, I'm gonna write it here, a gap junction for plants. Gap junction for plants, okay? Okay, plasmodesmata's function, it houses tiny little gaps, tiny little spaces. It is those tiny little spaces that allows passage of material from one cell to the next, okay? Nutrients, water, waste products, all that fun stuff, okay? These cells can share with each other, all right? And it is those tiny little spaces, yep, right there, okay? Tiny little spaces that allow the movement of those contents from one cell to the next, allowing the cell to communicate with one another that way, okay? So a plasmodesmata is basically tiny spaces, tiny gaps within the cell wall of adjacent plant cells, like a quote unquote gap junction for plants.